This is part 3 in my latest method in dealing with Australian police, specifically on the side of the road. And I was thinking, how can I make my strategy even better? Because I'm always trying to update and improve, and I want to achieve my goals as quickly as possible, saying the least words possible. And I was thinking back to COVID days when there was mask wearing, and I wanted to not wear the masks, and whenever anyone asked about it, whether it was police or whoever, I wanted to have them leave me alone by saying as few words as possible. And myself and a friend, we narrowed it down to 2 words. Whenever someone would say anything about a mask, not wearing a mask, they'd say, "Why aren't you wearing a mask?" I would just say, "I'm exempt." 2 words, that's it. 95% of the time, that's all that was needed to be said. And if they said anything else, "Oh, why," etc., that's confidential. 2 more words, that's it. There was only 2 more times I had to go further than that, but most of the time that worked a charm. And so I was thinking, how can I make this system even better? And I kept on coming up with ideas on how to use negative veheement. If you've watched the other prior videos specifically about negative veheement, you hopefully understand how that's a very powerful concept and a fantastic tool which can be used with the police, but I think more so the courts. I was thinking, how can I use this with the police? And then I was thinking, well, I don't even want to use negative vehement with the police. Before that, I was thinking, they ask, why have you got private plates on? Or if you've got registration and it's expired, why have you got registration that's expired? Or why haven't you paid registration? Why are you driving with a suspended license? Why have you got a license if you don't believe in it, if you're sovereign, etc.? And I was thinking, some kind of negative veheement, I don't understand that obligation. Because any legislation they have is some kind of obligation, but it's applicable to a specific status. And when you're not operating as the legal fiction, you're using it as a tool, but you have created that separation, then I don't understand. I'm not aware of that obligation. I don't have any evidence to suggest that this obligation is applicable to me. And I was trying to figure out how can I use negative vehement to make it as few words as possible. Then I was like, I don't even want to do that. Because legally, in their system, all you really need to say is your details in regards to your name and address. As I'm aware, that's all they legally want. Everything else, you don't need to say anything. You could either be silent or say no comment. And I was like, I did mention no comment in part 1 of the videos about, how to get out of awkward situations with police. I hope you liked that thumbnail too. I thought that was hilarious. But I think the no comment is a tool that can be used more. And so I want to go over a couple more small points here and then ask a bunch of questions that the police will ask and then respond to them quickly using my strategy and showing how I would simply use no comment as opposed to answering how you can, or how I answered in those previous videos that are a possibility, but how you could just say no comment and it's even easier. Save the negative vehement for the courts. I've even been working on a strategy of how to use that same principle of being extremely succinct and trying to chop it down to the basic fundamentals, just like with the masks. I'm exempt, that's confidential. Have it work so good and find some strategy which always just brings it back to the fundamental. Like with court, it'll be something about jurisdiction, but I'll save that for another video. And so I still want to be in a good mood. I want to have a friendly manner to the police instead of just not saying anything and I don't answer questions, I'm being silent, because it puts you into a bad mood, a negative mood, which then can elicitate fear from yourself. I know that's probably what it would do for me. So I don't want to say no comment to absolutely everything or be silent. I still want to be friendly because it'll just calm my emotions. And I know sometimes you may have seen some of the videos, it doesn't look like I'm nervous. Some of them I think it does, but I always am. When I get pulled over, I feel that anxiety and I don't like it, and I want to alleviate that as much as possible. And I also want to be very clear. I don't respect them as people. As police officers, I don't respect the police. But I do respect the fact that they are dangerous. So that's why I realize and I understand I'm living in a tyrannical world and I am just developing tools and a system as a means of my proper survival. This is all just self-defense. And another way to think about, if you do have plates or a license, their plates or a license, and they do ask you why you have them. I mean, now I know you just say no comment. Well, I could, you could, someone could. But mentally inside, because it's a means of self-defense. That's why I've paid for the plates. If you want to say that to police or the courts, that is legitimate. Though I wouldn't be doing that. But I found that useful to write that down and to go through that in my head because I'm trying to properly survive. I'm under duress. I'm living in a tyrannical dictatorship, a dystopian world, and I'm just doing what I think is in my best interests as a method of self-defense. I wouldn't say that to them. I'd just say no comment. That's something to think about. Something I didn't mention the past times is to pull over somewhere safe. Pull over in a car park. If you need to drive for another kilometre or two with them behind you and your sirens, do that until you can find somewhere safe to pull over so you're not on the side of the road. And there's a couple reasons for that. But I think the primary one for me is if I do need to wait, I can walk off. If they're going to sit there and just wait, they've said, you can't leave it, they're just going to sit there. Well, I don't want to have my car on the side of the road where they say, oh, we got to get it towed out of here because it's a problem, it's on the road and you can't drive it to move it. So just put it a safe spot in a car park where I could just lock it up, walk down the shops, get a drink, or just leave it. You know, if you're in a van, like my car's a van, you just hang out in the back, that's easy. But if you don't have a van, just leave it there, go do something else, wait till they go, jump back in, go on your merry way. So park in a safe spot. I always like to record the interaction. I think that is a very wise thing to do, just in case their cameras, they forget to turn it on, they deliberately don't turn it on, they have some kind of technical error with their cameras and it doesn't record. So have another copy. If they ever say anything, this is just for my records. That's it. Normally they never have a problem with it, but I don't recommend holding the camera and putting it into their face. It's not a good idea. Put it into your phone holder in your car. Also a mistake I noticed in my case studies where I was speaking to the police, sometimes I would cut them off. I would speak over them. And I just don't think that's a good method of communication because then it's teaching them that it's okay. They can do that and return to you. Just let them finish. And because it means I'm in a rush, I'm trying to speak too quickly. I can't even just relax, stop, let them say their thing and then respond in kind. So don't speak over them. Let them finish all their programmed lines and read out their script. So I went over the 4 case studies and I've just written down the first opening lines they've said. And I just want to share a short response of what I would say. I'm just going to think it off the top of my head. The first officer, he said, well, he said his name first. He said, I'm Matt Parks from police station here. The reason for the intercept is that the motor vehicle is unregistered. So he said that and he waited for me to say something. So I'd just say, hey, Matt, I'm James. Okay, well, what do you want to do about that? Boom. There you go. No need for Is this an emergency, etc.? Just, hi Matt, I'm James. What do you want to do about this? And then, because there's a concept called considered responses. And you want to know what they're going to say so you can pre-plan what you're going to say. You want to have considered responses for their considered responses because they've been trained on a script. They would go through training scenarios of dealing with people like me or just anyone really. They've been trained on how to deal with all sorts of people to extort, to find them and take their money while doing it as peacefully as possible because it's easier for them. Then they can extort more people per day if they don't have all this drama. So they've been trained for that. They're sales agents, basically. The next interaction, the police officer said, "Do you have a driver's license on you, please, sir?" And he probably introduced himself by name again. I always like to start like that. "Hi, whoever, Neil, Matt, Aegis, I'm James. I don't have a driver's license, but I have ID. Would you like to see it?" "Yes, I would like to see that." Here's the ID. And then it's knowing what they're going to say next. They're going to want the legal name. So this is my ID. And I presume you're looking for a legal name. Yes, I am looking for a legal name. Okay, here's the legal name. This is the birth certificate. Okay, and then you've got to give them a second because you know what they're going to do next. They're going to take that legal name, type it into their tablet, their iPad. It'll pop up in the system and it'll say whatever it says. And then you got to wait for them to do that. There's not much point saying anything else because you know that's what they need to do. So, okay, just be patient and wait until that happens and wait for the next thing that they're going to say. Because at that point, I don't think there's anything else you can do to speed it up. The next cop said, "Do you mind if you produce your driver's license?" So, very similar thing. "Hi there, I'm James. I don't have a driver's license, but I have ID. Would you like to see it?" "Yes, I would. Here's my ID. Presume you're also looking for a legal name." "Yes, here's a legal name." And I'm saying presume because you presume something based upon evidence. When you assume something, you're taking a guess based upon very little evidence. A presumption is what they do in court. It's like you have a presumption that someone is innocent until proven guilty. A presumption has more structure and evidence behind it, and that's why I'm presuming. I'm using that language as well. I like to use language that is specific and accurate because I do have evidence that's what they're looking for. I presume this is the name you're looking for. Here you go. The next cop said something different. He approached it differently. He said, "How are you? Having a good day today?" And in the past video, I said I don't like being asked that question, so I just say, "Hi there, first name, I'm James, how can I help you?" That's what I would say. And he said a few other things and basically got to the point where he said, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I said, "No." And he says, "Because the vehicle you're driving is currently unregistered." I say, "Okay, what would you like to do about that?" "Oh, okay." And then he's going to say, you know what he's going to do next because he's just going off a sales script. All his sales script is build rapport by saying the name, identifying where he's from this police place, and build some rapport with the "Hi, how are you? How you going, sir?" You know, they throw in the "sir" there as well. That's just what they're trained to do. So it appears that they're a servant of us, which is pretty maddening when you think about it. And then his sales script is get the legal name, get an address to send an invoice to, and then go. That's basically their sales script. Okay, they're the 4 lines that the police said, and then I've got quite a few other questions of what they do say and what they could say, and just some basic answers what I may use in the future. Hopefully not, hopefully I don't deal with the police again, but I'm almost certain that I will. So say for instance I'm up to the point where I've given them the legal name and they say, "So your name is," and they read out on the legal name. I can just say, "No, my name is here on my ID and this is the legal name in my custody." So I could say that. Or they say, "Are you legal name?" and they read out on the birth certificate. Say, "No, I'm James the Traveller on my ID here, that's the legal name in my custody. Or that's the legal name I'm the custodian of. And they could say something like, well, why do you have two names? No comment on that. What would you like to do next? I don't need to comment on that. Because there's a question you can ask, and if you ever say no comment and they try to force you to make an answer, you can ask, am I legally required to answer that question? And provided you say it in the right manner, they're actually going to give you an answer. Because if you say it with the wrong tone and attitude, then they won't give you an answer. They just ask the question again, the exact same way or in a different way to try and get you to answer still. But that's why I think using the right manner and being friendly is useful. It's useful to do because it makes it easier for you. Why do you have two names? Oh, no comment. I don't need to answer that. And so then they'll go on to the next step on their sales script, because legally you're only required to, I'm not legally required to answer that question. So, okay, why? I don't need to answer it. No point of going into more detail. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but I don't want to. They could ask the question, why are you unregistered? No comment. What would you like to do next? And I'm saying what would you like to do next to try and move this on, right? It's giving them a command to move on, but by putting the power into their hands. Because I think what's very powerful as a strategy as well is to make them feel like they're the ones in control, that they have the power, which is they're going to appreciate. Because there's no need for me to do things that make me feel and look powerful, because then that just makes me feel insecure. I watched some of my footage over again today and it's like, oh, okay, I can see how I'm trying to get power over them by maybe speaking over them or saying this or doing that. And it's just not necessary. It's not necessary. I'm just understanding the situation very clearly. My opinion, they're a bad person that's following a script. And if I don't navigate through that script in a method like this, I'm going to get hurt, and I don't want that. So I'm going to be very wise about how I communicate with these people. So why are you unregistered? No comment. I don't need to answer that. Because in the part 1 and part 2, I was using a negative of vehement, where I was saying, because I'm not aware of any evidence which suggests I'm obligated to have registration. Oh, how many words is that? 2, that's 10 words. No comment, 2 words, because I don't need to answer. I don't need to answer. No comment. What would you like to do next? Yeah, keep continuing. Get them to the point where they send that invoice to the name, to the legal name, because the sooner they do that, the sooner they're going to go, the sooner you can go. They ask, why haven't you paid your registration? Why have you allowed your registration to expire? No comment. What would you like to do next? Why don't you have a driver's license? No comment. Where is your license? No comment. Unless that is one of the first things they say, then I would say, I don't have a driver's license, but I have ID. Would you like to see it? Depends on when they say that. If I've done that and then they say, oh, why don't you have a driver's license? No comment. I don't need to provide an answer. I don't need to. But if you decided to do that, then I would use a negative of vehement. I'm not aware of any obligations to. That's it. And that's saying the truth and what I want to say in very few words. I don't understand any obligations that require me to. Are you aware you're legally obligated to have a license? No comment. What would you like to do next? You're legally obligated to pay registration. Are you aware, did you know that the Road Transport Safety Act 2000 requires all Australian citizens to pay registration, and it is an offence to not do so? Are you aware of that? Did you know that? No comment. What would you like to do next? And by asking them what to do next, I feel what that does is it makes you appear non-hostile. You give off a vibe that you're not here to cause controversy, where sometimes strangely enough, just saying no comment or I don't answer questions, especially with the tone, what is it, color, tone, and feeling behind those words can spark them off, and they then start, they just extend the duration they're harassing you for. When you have the right color, tone, and feeling, the right manner, and also what would you like to do next, it's not just no comment, it's not just I'm being silent, I don't answer questions. No comment, what do you want to do next? Move it on, move it on. Then I think, I haven't tested this in the field yet, but I'm presuming, based upon my experience, this is how it would go. Who does this car belong to? I mean, you could say no comment, but I think there may be a legal requirement to answer that one. And I think it's not a big issue to just say me. Who is this car registered to? You could say no comment with that one, or you could just say the legal name. And when they ask who is it registered to, I mean, you could test out saying no comment, see what happens. See, with that, I'm not sure entirely. I'd need to test that out and see what works best. No comment, or if they ask again, who is it registered to? And it depends if it's private plates or if you've got their registration. Maybe it could just be quicker to answer the legal name. Or you could just say this, the birth certificate, the legal name, or, and I think the way I'm going to approach it is say Mr. last name. So I'd say Mr. Bartolo. That's the legal name I am in custody of. That belongs to this car is registered to Mr. Bartolo. Oh, okay. Yep. And so from what I'm aware, from my understanding, I can't see how there is any incrimination or enjoyment with the legal name by simply stating that the car is registered to the legal name. Maybe you can even create that extra distinction, separation, because you're saying it's registered to the legal name. And then if they ask, oh, so it's registered in your name? No, it's registered to Mr. Bartolo. Aren't you Mr. Bartolo? No, I'm this name. Moving on. And that's why I really like using my chosen name. And there's nothing fraudulent about it. It's no deceit. It's all, I mean, look at my YouTube channel, look at my Facebook, Instagram. It's all out there. It's not trying to hide anything, so they can't use that against me. How did you get here? No comment. I don't need to answer that. Who drove the car here? No comment. I don't need to answer that. Are you the driver? No comment. Did you drive here? No comment. How long have you been driving? No comment. Do you understand you can't drive away? They're at the end. No comment. Are you going to drive away after I leave? No comment. What would you like to do next? No. You won't be able to drive from here until your car is registered. Oh, yes. So that's what one of the police actually said to me. He said verbatim, you won't be able to drive from here until your car is registered. All right? So because that's two different things. If you take out, with the all right, it's a question. If you take out the all right, it's just a statement. And I'd say no comment for both. And listen to how I say it and you can see the difference. You won't be able to drive away from here until your car is registered. Statement. And I don't want to be silent at that point. Maybe you could, but I'd still prefer to just say no comment. Because sometimes your silence can be seen as an admission of guilt. In some court cases, that's how it can be interpreted. So that's why I would like to explicitly say no comment. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of context there. You won't be able to drive away from here until your car is registered, all right? It's like the change of tone, it's putting a question mark on the end there. So with that police officer, we ended up speaking more, and then he's also said before he's left, you seem like a nice fella. The last thing you want to do is find yourself in trouble. Makes sense? So he said that. I was like, no comment. I mean, what I said to him, I did like, and I said, that's my motto. I don't make trouble. I don't go looking for it. After all, I didn't pull you over. You pulled me over. I like that. That was really cool. You could say something like that if you wanted to. It obviously depends on the cop you're speaking to. I could say that to that cop and he didn't get angry or anything, but some of them may do. It's probably wise just to say, no comment. Bye. That's it. And he's also asked, any questions at all, sir? Oh, that's what he asked before that, actually. It doesn't matter. Any questions at all, sir? Anything you don't understand what's happened today? So that's why it's good to practice this stuff, because there's a lot there you want to address. I mean, you could just say no comment, but at the same time, I would like to address, I'm not a sir, I don't have any questions and I don't understand what's happened today. But then if you just say, I don't understand what's happened today, it can be interpreted like, are you stupid? So perhaps it's just best to say no comment. But that can be decided in the moment. But that's why I really like that no comment. It's very versatile. Just no comment. Bye. Because he was saying that at the end of the conversation. Because then I did say, are you open to changing your mind? And he said, no, because I've got an employment to make money, etc. If they say, where do you live? Well, yes, you're legally required to give an address. And if you don't give an address, that's when they're going to arrest you, crack the shits. So it's like, okay, this is where I live. Postal address, what's your address? Give them address. Well, I was leaving my van, so it's like, yep, just here. So then they would ask, well, what's your postal address or what's your email address? And because that's where they want to send a fine, and I'd say, I would prefer just all those fines, all those invoices to go to an email address. So I'd say, this is the email address I manage for Mr. Bartolo, or this is Mr. Bartolo's email address. And I don't know, have it on a piece of paper or just tell them whatever it is, here you go. And if they ask some kind of question like, where does the legal name live? Or where does Mr. Bartolo live? Where does this person live? That is a question where I would say, instead of no comment, because it's difficult to say no comment because there's that legal requirement to answer that question. But it's also like a tricky question because when you think about it technically, the legal name doesn't live anywhere. It doesn't live. A legal name is a fiction. It's not a real entity. So what I would say, if they probably wouldn't ask that because they'd say, well, where do you live? What's your address? And then you'd answer, my address is here. But if you'd like an address for the legal name to send that infringement, blah, 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 what I said before, where does legal name live? I can't answer that question because that's not a question you can answer. The legal name doesn't live. Well, you can answer, but you have a big explanation there. I don't understand how a legal fiction can have life. So therefore, I don't understand how this legal fiction can live anywhere. So you don't want to say that to a cop. So I just say, I can't answer that, but I live here. Oh. Being a little bit excessive, but it's good to know this stuff mentally. What's your email? My email. Oh, actually, that's good. What's your email? I wouldn't say my email, I'd say the email for Mr. Bartolo where you can send the infringement is this. If they ask, what have you been doing today? No comment. Where have you come from? No comment. Where are you going? No comment. What do you do for work? No comment. Do you have a job? No comment. Who's your employer? No comment. How much money do you earn? No comment. So as you can see, there's a pattern there of how that's all working. And if they ask something about a search, never consent to a search of yourself or a car because they could plant something in there. If you say, oh, well, I've got nothing to fear because I've got nothing in my car, or someone else may have been your car and left drugs or something. So you never want to consent to a search. So you'd always say, I don't consent to be searched. And if they then say, oh no, you have to, otherwise I'm going to arrest and kill you, whatever they say, then it's like, well, okay, I'll comply under duress at that point. But I'd want to push for I don't consent, say that multiple times before you actually did allow them to do that or comply under duress. But if you're acting in this manner, I think it's quite unlikely that they're going to want to do a search. Oh yeah, because what you can also then say is, I don't consent, but if you're forcing me to do so, I will comply, but I'd like to know what your what the specific reasonable suspicion is you have to do so. Because according to their law and legality, they need to have some kind of, I think they call it an RAS, a reasonable articulated or articulable suspicion. They need to have some kind of grounds to want to search your car. Maybe they think you're dangerous, you've got weapons in there, or you look like you're all drugged up and they think there's heaps of drugs in there. They need some kind of reasonable suspicion to do so. Maybe they think you're a threat and they want to check for weapons. And also I'd suggest don't do any sudden movements. I mean, Australian police are different to American police, but still, I noticed in some of my videos, I didn't show in part 1 and part 2, but I was like leaning back in the car to grab stuff. I mean, I was just grabbing a clipboard, but you might get the wrong cop. They think you're grabbing a gun. If you're going to grab stuff or go into the glove box, I recommend just saying, hey, the birth certificate or the legal name, I'm just going to get that out of the glove box. Because again, you want to make them feel safe. And it makes them think you're working with them and you're complying, right? I'm just getting this out of the glove box. That's all I'm doing. And it makes, if they are a bad cop and they're looking for any reason to search your car, and remember, they could plant stuff, there could be something accidentally in there, whatever. You don't want them doing that. You don't want to give them any excuse or reason to violate your rights. So say if you've got a really bad prick of a cop and you go over to the glove box just to grab the birth certificate ID or some kind of documentation, and then he says, oh, I feel threatened, and I thought he was going to go for a gun, so I demanded a search, and I told him, you have to get out of the car now, I'm doing a search now, it's all legal. And then he does that, and then he plants drugs in there, takes it to court. It's just a headache you want to avoid. So if you try to do everything by the book and make it just as hard as possible for them to screw you over, I think it's going to be a stronger position. And if they ever ask you a question you don't know how to answer it, you can just say, I don't know how to answer that. I can't answer that. That's another strategy you could fall back upon. Maybe it just gives you a few moments to think of something better to say, if no comment is not applicable for whatever reason. So that's all for today. If you've got anything you'd like to add to improve my method, please let me know. I'd be happy to hear it. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.